Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. How susceptible are your children to transgenderism? And more, for that matter. Four women who formerly identified as transgender men are speaking out. They maintain that the influence from social media and friends led them to transition as teenagers into men. Their condition, known as rapid onset gender dysphoria, is controversial in the transgender community because it implies transgenderism can be a fad and not something born solely from internal feelings, internal chemistry. In rapid onset gender dysphoria, teens transition quickly due to the influence from friends and from social media. These four women are part of something called the PIQUE, P-I-Q-U-E, Resilience Project. They say all four of us experienced rapid onset gender dysphoria and subsequently identified as trans men for several of our teenage years. We have all since detransitioned, desisted, and have been able to explore other individual factors that may have caused or exacerbated our dysphoria. The publication National Review interviewed three of these women. The women are not using their real last names, but they will respond to their first name here. In the story, they say, Helena says, it was very much the in thing to do. She's talking about her transitioning. She was, she said, very confused about life. Pretty much every teenager at some point. When I found, she said, this trans stuff online, I felt it explained everything. Why I didn't like my body, why I was bullied, why I didn't fit in. I would add, never considered all the other 87 reasons. Helena told National Review, just every question and problem that I had, I just felt was automatically answered, explained by this trans thing, whatever it was. But not only was it explained, it also offered me a solution. Chiara said the four were socially isolated and looking for community. Social contagion, she said, is a big factor. Talking about the influence of media and friends. Jessie, on the other hand, had similar feelings. As a teenager, she said, I was really involved in online activism and the rise of what people now call social justice warriors. I thought that was a very righteous cause to be part of as a young person. So eventually that led me to adopting more and more facets of gender ideology into how I perceive myself and others in this world. Now the question that arises, I suppose it arises with everyone, it did with me, where were their parents? Now, if my experience is of any help, I would say to you the parents were right there. I don't mean they were right there where they should be, but they were right there in the house and in these girls' lives. At least as much as parents are these days. And my point is here that parents are just as susceptible as children to this kind of thing. I know of several cases, one in particular where the mother bought into this thing almost immediately and led the charge for her child to transition. The father was not so sure. He asked a couple of pastors he knew, friends, and at least one Christian medical doctor. And the conclusion was that this sort of thing was normal or natural. And so their little boy became a girl. Now, several years later, it became obvious that she was not a she. And then came the detransitioning period with a ton of confusion, frustration from the child, and at least from one parent. What's going on in our society? Where does this stuff come from? It is not a natural evolution. Else this would be happening to millions of children thousands of years ago. Is it in the water? Or is it in the culture? Now, note that officials with the Houston Public Library issued a mea culpa this past Friday after a conservative group discovered that one of the participants in their drag queen story hour was really a registered sex offender. They were shocked. According to the Houston Chronicle, 32-year-old Albert Garza, who performs in the drag queen story hour as Tatiana Malanina, was convicted in 2009 of aggravated sexual assault against a 9-year-old child. The judge sentenced Garza to 5 years of probation and community supervision. Now, the logical question is, what in the world is a school or a library or whatever this is bringing drag queens in to read to small preschool age children? Otherwise educated people, dumb as to what all this is about, deliberately confusing children or deliberately conditioning them? The Houston Public Library apologized, released a statement acknowledging their mistake, said they were made aware today that one participant for Drag Queen Storytime who read at the September 29, 2018 Drag Queen Storytime had a criminal background that should have been prevented from participating in the program. They deeply regret the oversight, and they realize it's a serious matter. What was the serious matter? Bringing the drag queens in to read to little kids? Or just not doing the background check? And since when do we have to do criminal background checks on people we know who agree to read stories to our children? Well, that's apparently not what this is about. Drag Queen Story Hour is apparently an organization, a company that's been established, as they say, quote, to provide drag queens reading stories to children in libraries, schools, and bookstores. They're out there pushing this stuff, and these dummies are taking it in. According to them, the Drag Queen Story Hour captures the imagination and play of the gender fluidity of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, and unabashedly queer role models. You see it? In spaces like this, kids are able to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions. And imagine a world where people can present as they wish, where dress-up is real. Parents and conservative groups have protested the use of Drag Queen Story Hour in several cities, but some libraries and even some schools continue to push the program. Houston Public Library even sought to tamp down the concerns about children being harmed at their event. They assured the parents that every program sponsored by them is supervised by their staff and that all children are accompanied by a parent or a guardian. No participant is ever alone with children, and we have not received any complaints about any inappropriate behavior by participants at story times. If you have to say no participant is ever left alone with children, you've already admitted the possibility of problems, either from the parents who are afraid of the shadow or you, who can't be trusted. They close by writing, once again, we apologize for our failure to adhere to our own process in this matter and to the hundreds of parents and caregivers who enjoyed this program with their children. Subtext, interpretation, we're not going to stop the program. What is going on in a world where you have drag queens, the guys dressed up like girls, and you've seen the pictures, they're not just nice, sweet little girls. They are vicious, vile, ugly, dramatic exaggerations of women. I mean, this is Halloween time. These kids ought to be frightened out of their mind when they walk into this room from this crazy person over there. And they think that's good for kids. And then you take the media that isn't being governed at all. This is a library that controls for this stuff. And you put all this into the soup and then tell kids to grow up with no parents at home and no parents parenting when they are at home. I know you're going to tell me that's not true, but it is. Parents are people who know what their children are, know where their children are, who the children are with, what the children are doing. They know that every minute of every day, and they are controlling for all of that actively. And when the children are home, they are engaged in what that child was exposed to that day, what their homework was, what happened to them, their friends. They talk about it, they interact with these kids, they know that child. That's a parent. Today, a parent is a person who takes a baby that's only 3 months old and gives it to another person to raise for 6 or 8 hours a day while they go to work. Today, parenting is when we truck the kids off to school and trust that the school is going to take care of everything and the school is going to do what's right. And then has the child call you at work when they get home so that you can know they're home and you can set up their schedule. Well, we have technology. We have cameras now. Someone just showed me that at church tonight. For $30 they bought this thing. It's a camera. It goes in the house. It ties in with the phone. And they can watch what's going on in the house at all times. My friends, watching what's going on in your home is not the same as being there. Who's imprinting that child for the majority of that day? 10 hours a day, strangers are imprinting your child with whatever their values are, whatever their character is, whatever it is that makes up their life. That's being translated to your child. And you get them for 2, maybe 4 hours in the evening when all chaos is breaking loose. We have to have supper. We have to do homework. We have to get ready for bed. I have to do some laundry. I have to run to the store. I've been out all day, mom and dad both, and the kids are trusted to go to bed. And these kids are not going to bed till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm talking 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds. I talk to kids all the time, and that's what they tell me. I was in bed before the sun went down. I can remember in my bedroom. And the kids were still outside playing, the older kids. It was the 50s, early 50s. It was a different world. But kids are kids. They need more than 6 hours sleep. And now we have kids, if you go into their room in the middle of the night, you're liable to see them under the covers online on their phone. Do parents take those phones away from the children when they walk in the door? I'd have a machine that just garbled your phone. You wouldn't have it in my house. There'd be a box. You put your phone in here. You don't touch it till you go back out. And unless you're 15, you wouldn't have one anyway. You've got no need for it. Not even sure a 15-year-old needs it. Parents say, well, I got to know where my kid is. They're in school. They have to be able to get a hold of me. They can call home, can't they? Well, no, they can't because I'm not there. I'm not the model. I can count on one hand the number of times I had to call home in 13 years of public school. And I knew not to call home for just anything. Well, I forgot my homework. Forget that. You're not getting it. I forgot my lunch. You're not getting that either. You're sick? We'll come. But I want to talk to the nurse. That's not the way kids are raised today. And you get what you get. We're not watching them, and the world is after them. And now the library, it says, we don't see a problem here. And the school system, I don't think they're bringing this stuff in, but they're teaching them a morality structure that you don't know anything about. a value structure you've never seen before. They have an agenda for your child. You got to compensate for that. It's a mean, vicious world